So this past Friday, just about every single corporate media outlet uncritically repeated obviously false unemployment headlines, which Donald Trump then used to claim everything's going great in the economy, despite us still being in the middle of the largest jobs downturn in a very, very long time, with historically high unemployment rates. Now, the crazy thing about this is I told you guys this was going to happen just 2 weeks ago. If you listen to this podcast, if you watch the YouTube clip, I did a story called "You're About to Get Slammed with Garbage Math." And in that story, I specifically said, when the economy starts to recover, you are going to get hit with growth rates that will be based on the absolute bottom of this disaster. So I gave the example, air travel dropped 96%. And then you saw a headline, air travel up 120%. Well, okay, from the decreased by 96% number, it has doubled. And I told you it would happen with GDP. I told you it would happen with jobs numbers. And it took only 2 weeks, and we're now seeing it. But it's actually even worse because it's based on admittedly incorrect numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Not only are they lying in exactly the way that I predicted they would be lying, they aren't even reporting what's actually in the BLS jobs report. And this is so important that everybody understand. So all day Friday, Trump and corporate media were reporting unemployment rate way down to 13.3%, 2.5 million jobs created. The report says in it that because of what's called a misclassification error, the unemployment rate has been reported 3 months in a row as being lower than it actually is and was. This was reported by almost no corporate media, and we're going to show you the actual numbers and one report from corporate media that actually looked to get it right, but it was sort of like swept under the rug. So for context, remember, I want a recovery. I want coronavirus to end. I want the economy to recover. I never wanted anybody to die from coronavirus. I don't want a crappy economy or death in order to hurt Donald Trump and his reelection chances. That's an allegation that people like Donald Trump Jr. have made. It's ridiculous, okay? But we have to tell the truth, and the truth is not being told. So let's get right into the numbers. Back in April, the unemployment rate of 15% was reported, 14.7%. Due to what's called a classification error, the real rate was 19%. Now, for May, we just got the May numbers. They are saying the unemployment rate is 13.3%, while the actual rate is really 16.3%. Now, to be totally clear and honest, this is still an improvement from April to May. And this is still the worst unemployment we've ever had, dating back to 1948 when the numbers started being tracked the way that they are today. So what the hell happened here? What happened is that employees who should be considered temporarily unemployed, which does count towards the unemployment rate, were instead classified as absent from work for other reasons. Temporarily unemployed counts towards the unemployment rate that we know as the U3. That's the rate that we're talking about here. If you're absent from work for other reasons, it does not count towards the unemployment rate. Now, usually, absent for other reasons would be something like you're on a vacation or you're on extended jury duty, you're taking care of a child or relative. That's very different than your business is closed and you are unemployed, even if the idea is you're going to go back to work when that business reopens. For some reason, and we really don't know what, I'm not implying that Trump tinkered with the data. There are very conspiratorial claims about Trump forced the hand of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That it's a huge organization, and absent evidence of that, I think it would be irresponsible to suggest Trump demanded fake numbers be published, because they did publish the real numbers. They were just in a footnote. For some reason, people who should have been counted in the unemployment rate in April and May were counted as this other category, which artificially lowers the unemployment rate. The report says this happened due to coronavirus-related business closures as unemployed on temporary layoffs. However, it is apparent that not all such workers were so classified. They claim to be investigating why the misclassification error continues to occur. So this has now happened 3 times. In March, the real unemployment rate was 5.4. They reported 4.4. In April, the real unemployment rate was 19.7. They reported 14.7. And in May, the new numbers, the real unemployment rate is 16.3. They reported 13.3. So understand that from this same error, we now have 3 months of headlines that are wrong, almost exclusively reported in the incorrect form by corporate media. I found one instance of this being mentioned on Friday. Here is Steve Ratner on MSNBC, who actually said, hey, you know what? There's different numbers there that are the actual numbers. Take a look.
Through this, what I think those of us who are into these weeds are finding is there is a note in the BLS report today that has to do with methodology specifically relating to the COVID problem, and I won't get into all the weeds on that. But BLS is noting that issue has a 3 percentage point impact on unemployment, and so that a number of economists are thinking that the right number to be looking at is more like 16% or 16.3%, i.e.
Now, again, understand, I am not blaming Trump. It is true that a bunch of jobs were created in May, or at least rehabilitated jobs. That's a good thing. But the unemployment rate is still a record high of more than 16.3%. The Trump administration has been going crazy with the economists were wrong. Well, unemployment was expected to hit 20% at its peak, and it hit 19.7 in April. They just didn't report that number except in a little footnote. They reported it as 14.7. So the bragging about we know what's actually going on, the economists don't know, they predicted 20, they were way off. It's all been predicted accurately. And I'm the first to tell you that economists are notably bad at making economic predictions. But none of this matters. The Trump administration has not only been touting these incorrect numbers for 4 days now, they've already created campaign ads around these incorrectly reported numbers. The jobs report says unemployment is 16.3%. We've never had anything this high short of last month. And they are claiming victory and saying, let's reelect Trump based on these record disaster unemployment numbers. They're living in a fantasy world, and I fear that it is going to work, and we're going to talk about this a little more later on in the program. If you love feeding your intellectual curiosity, but you're always struggling to find the time, check out one of my all-time favorite apps called Blinkist. Blinkist lets you consume an entire book on your way home from work. They take thousands of popular nonfiction books, condense each one into text or audio that you can get through in just 15 minutes, and you get all of the important core ideas and information from that book. It's perfect if you don't have enough time to do all the reading you want to do, or if you just want to sample a book before you buy the entire thing. I recently read A Brief History of Time, of course, by the great Stephen Hawking. This is a book that I have been aware of for so long, and other things got in the way, and it was fantastic to check it out on Blinkist. Blinkist has books on politics, philosophy, science. They have 27 different nonfiction categories, and a subscription is only about $8 a month, and you get the entire library. But you can try it totally free and get 25% off a subscription when you go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. I've put the link right underneath this video.